Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Counter Press, a discussion about the glorious game of football. That's soccer in America and Australia, but football for everybody else, with people in the world of logistics and trade. I'm Eric Johnson. I'm your host. I should mention this is not a supply chain or logistics or trade podcast. This is a football podcast through the eyes of people that I know and speak to regularly in my day job, which is as an editor at the Journal of Commerce. A word of caution here: I'm a writer and a talker, as most people know at this point. I'm definitely not a production wizard, so you're going to have to bear with me as I learn the ropes of producing a high quality podcast around one of my favorite topics, if not my favorite topics, football. So unfortunately, you are all my guinea pigs as I learn on this journey, but hopefully the quality of the discussion is enough to shine through in the meantime while I do learn that. So my guest today is actually someone who I discussed this idea with, I think, more than a year ago, as a fellow football lover and someone who is in my industry as well. So it only makes sense that he's one of the first people that I have on. So my guest today, one of the first guests of the Counter Press, is Mike King. Mike King, thanks for joining us. Mike, you are the host and producer of also a podcast, the Freight Buyers Club, and YouTube channel, one of the most watched and listened to discussions in the logistics and trade industry. We're not going to talk about any of that today, but I'm super excited to have you on as one of my first guests.
I'm honored, Eric. I'm honored. Thank you so much. That get a chance to talk about football and not supply chain, and also not ask questions. I'm very pleased. Yeah, when you said I could talk about football and myself, I was like, oh my God, is there any? I would have swam across the Atlantic to get onto the Counter Press.
Where do I sign up? Where do I sign up?
As well? Can I swear? Then I'm away.
I was wondering about this. I think I am going to allow, this is going to be a footloose and fancy free type of podcast, right? So
this is my perfect counseling. I don't need any sessions, do I? I just need a chat about football on a podcast.
Yeah, we're not going to limit ourselves in any way on this. So if you need a colorful adjective to use the colorful adjective. I'm sure there's some things that will inspire those words from both of us. Okay, so I mentioned who you are, what you do. Just describe for people. This is the only thing we're going to talk about, not football related. What do you do? What's your day to day? Where are you based?
Based in London. I'm working full time on the Freight Buyers Club, which is a YouTube channel. We've got the website. It's a podcast platform across all the various podcast platforms, same as the Counter Press will be, I think, in time. We've been going a few years. Before that, though, I've been 20 odd years as a written journalist like yourself, working for everyone, including Journal of Commerce back in the day, Freight Waves, a little bit, briefly, Lloyd's, many years, and many others, editing a whole bunch of magazines. So I've been around quite a while and thoroughly enjoying telling stories using lots of different types of methods other than words.
You were one of the first people I knew and saw that sort of embraced the non-written sort of format for telling stories in the logistics industry. So you're definitely, you were one of the first people I talked to about this idea, because you had been down that road and way past where I have ever been. I still, for the most part, I would say 95% of my day is still like old-fashioned reporting and writing, and a little bit of, obviously we all do shows and we all moderate panels these days, but I have not dived into the podcast world anymore.
I think I've disappeared down a rabbit hole here. There's no way back for me now. I can barely spell.
Well, you don't need it anymore. We have all these tools now.
I don't need it. I can just talk rubbish instead.
Yeah, you don't even know if either of us are writing stories anymore, actually. It's our agent. Okay, so let's get into this. Tell me your football origin story. Who do you support? How did you start supporting them? And then, we'll start from there.
I can almost bring a bit of shipping in here as well. Actually, I'm trying not to.
Yeah, we're not supposed to, but if it's natural, go for it.
Are in the industry, and I am from Liverpool, so it was sort of the two things sort of came together at a very early age. So I'm a Liverpool fan.
Congratulations.
Yes. Okay, it's been a brilliant year. So this is really good time. And Leeds promoted. I know you're a Leeds fan, so congratulations there.
Yeah, we both can celebrate.
Supporting Liverpool. Why did that happen? I'm not entirely sure. It was. I asked my parents about this, and they can't really remember. We're a divided family, so my dad's an Everton fan, and my two younger brothers are both Everton fans. And my mum and my two grandmothers. I guess I'm a mother's boy. I don't know. Somehow, by the age of 3 or 4, as far as anyone can remember, there was no way my dad was converting me, however many Everton kits he bought me. So I was just a Liverpool fan. Maybe it was some sort of, I don't know. Maybe I could read the future, and I knew supporting Everton was going to lead to a pitiful life. But I was very lucky to choose the right way.
I was going to say you should have bought a lottery ticket that same day. So
well, I've avoided supporting a team that's where the stadium's now called the Hill Dickinson Stadium, which I actually thought they were maritime lawyers when they made that announcement.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. Well, so age-wise, take us back to a year, because I started following football late 90s. I'd already missed most of the initial glory years of Liverpool. So what year?
I'm 3 or 4. So Liverpool are winning the European Cup in 77, 78. I remember 81. I don't remember 77, 78, but 81 I vaguely remember. Okay. And Liverpool's winning everything. We had multiple leagues. This is the team of Kenny Dalglish and Graham Souness and these. I start going to the match, and Ian Rush is playing with Kenny Dalglish, and there's some of the players. Alan Hansen was one of my favorite players. Yeah. Steve Nicol, who I know is on the telly quite a lot over in the US. He was a brilliant player with some of the pair of the biggest feet in football history, by the way. Very difficult to play football with big feet. He's got like size 14s or something. Ooh. If you didn't know that, just throw that in.
Those are like hoofs, not feet. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a fantastic team. And I grew up with that. But weirdly enough, we had season tickets for Everton and Liverpool. So I would go with my dad, and Liverpool and Everton would play 1 week on, 1 week off. So I would go and watch Everton, and all my first games were actually watching Everton. My dad's still trying to convince me to be an Everton fan. So I also remember
that's a losing battle. So the team you support is winning, and he's trying to convert you to the team that's not winning as much.
Well, it's a really interesting time, though, because the best two teams possibly in Europe, but certainly in Britain at that time, which I'm watching both of them at the time. This is the great Everton team, the last great Everton team, probably. This is the
early 80s.
Early 80s, yeah. So this is Peter Reid, Paul Bracewell, Kevin Sheedy, Trevor Steven. I can name the whole team. Pat Van Den Houw. Now, probably people know Stuart Pearce, but Pat Van Den Houw was the original psycho left back, and I used to go and watch these guys all the time. This is proper 80s football. And they won the league twice in the late 80s. I think Liverpool won it. So they were the two best teams in Britain and in Europe around about that late 80s period. Yep. Mid 80s, late 80s. So I was very lucky to be able to watch both of them. And some of my favorite players were actually the Everton players. Kevin Sheedy, go and watch some clips of him. Beautiful left foot.
And for I know many people will know this, but for those who don't, very unusual setup until next season. Obviously, the two grounds are literally like a few 100 meters apart, correct?
Yeah, right across Stanley Park. Yes. Yeah. So I was growing up in South Liverpool, which is about 4 miles away from Stanley Park, and yeah, they're just either side of just a local park, basically. Yeah, it's quite strange that there's two massive stadiums in a poor part of Liverpool as well, but the new stadium's magnificent. It's just got a rubbish name. Goodison.
That's not unusual in sports these days. So
Goodison was brilliant, though. I mean, what an atmosphere you got there. It was just as good as
I actually saw a match there. I've never seen a match at Anfield, but I went to a match in Goodison in 2003. So it was 0-0, but what are you gonna do? So
I took my my wife Kerry, now wife. This didn't ruin it, fortunately, but she came up to Liverpool with me, and it was actually an Everton Leeds game. And this is the Howard Wilkinson Everton. Oh. And I think it was like the Dogs of War Everton of the early 90s or something. It would have been. And it was the worst game of football I've ever seen. The weather was terrible. It was 0-0. The ball, it was just long ball football. Actually, I don't think she's ever been back.
That was not a good advertisement for the game, huh?
No.
Okay, cool. do you remember? That's very interesting. Must have made dinners at certain points of the year extremely lively.
Very tense in the 80s, very one-sided since.
Since yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. What do you recall the first moment that you got hooked on football, whatever the team was like? Do you recall the first time you like, oh my God, I love this?
Um, I don't know if it was one. I think there was something about, and this would not be necessarily to do with Liverpool, but it was something to do with the the process of going. Maybe it's spending time with your brothers or your dad, or I used to go with my mum as well, which is quite unusual. Which she would take me in the week to watch Liverpool, and my dad was working. I think there was something about the process of going the match. So we go on a Saturday, and my dad would go and meet his mates, and we'd have a game of pool. A bit later, I'd be having a pint, but with his friends, a lot of them were in freight forwarding. So my dad's business is in shipping. So
That's
there
where
was an overlap there, yeah.
yeah.
And I would meet all of them, and yeah, they would all, and it was all the banter about the football, or I mean, the Liverpool have got a sense of humour. We apparently there's a lot of Mickey
So I
taking.
hear. So I
Yeah,
hear.
yeah. So there was, yeah. You had to grow up quite quickly, because if not, you'd be on the end of a lot of jokes.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so I think I like the process, and then the sort of the I guess the rawness of a good match when it's a close match or a big rival,
Yeah.
that it's sort of it gets visceral, and I
Crowd
think
gets a
that
little
was,
feral almost. Yeah.
yeah, that feral feeling. I think
Yeah.
I like that. And I also love beautiful football, and I was growing up watching two brilliant teams,
Yep.
with fantastic players. So yeah, Kenny Dalglish, his slide ball passes for Ian Rush was a thing of beauty. So
Yep.
I think it was, yeah, a combination of things, but it was just it was something that grew and grew and has never gone away. There was a magazine, I remember being about 7. So and most people are reading sort of like picture magazines with pictures of footballers on. We in Britain, I don't know if you had it over in the States. There's a magazine called World Soccer,
Mm.
and it had tiny type, and it was the first place you could ever read about international football. There's a brilliant journalist called Brian Glanville, was explaining Catenaccio. I can't tell you how boring I was talking about football with some of my friends. Do you want to know what Catenaccio is? No, mate, don't shut up, will you? That was the conversation.
Trey Cortista and
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm getting all into these, these early Italian teams. I was reading about it. We couldn't
Yeah.
watch it at that stage, but I
Yeah.
was fascinated with the tactics and understanding all this, even at an early age. So I was just getting more and more into it. I was, probably too deeply.
Never.
Never.
Yeah. It's just it gives you a broader appreciation. Okay, so let's get into you. We've both had great years. Ironically, the last time Liverpool won the league, Leeds also won the championship and got promoted. So there seems to be some synergy there. I hope that doesn't happen again. Leeds is nowhere near winning the top division, but I hope we don't get relegated again in the next time you win the league. But so let's compare and contrast. 2020 was a weird year. You had the run in was essentially with no one in the stands. You couldn't have the parade. So sorry about what happened. What happened during the parade this year, but there was another level of appreciating this team because everyone could be in the stadium. So talk about that a little bit, like the difference between the two titles. And then I want your comparison between like the quality of the teams and what stood out to you.
The difference between the 2020 title and this year.
Yeah.
So 2020 was like this barnstorming. This is sort of peak Liverpool with Sadio Mane and Salah, and Firmino operating with this
heavy metal Jurgen Klopp.
Yeah, it's that proper sort of, we'll always score one more than you type football. Really, really dynamic. That workaholic midfield. Fantastic defense. Trent's sort of becoming one of the best passers in the world at this stage. Goalkeeper Van Dijk there. That was a really exciting team, but it felt that season was sort of cut off at the knees. We won the league. We'd sort of tied the league up, but then COVID hit. And and it was in a sense, it was a bit. This is, it was. I think okay, well, unless I'm mixed. No, this is the same season. Yeah, so it's COVID. I'm going to bring TPM into here because I came to TPM in 2020. It would have been my first appearance, and I got down there on the Sunday, and it was cancelled.
You were one of the TPM refugees.
I was one of the TPM refugees. I ended up going around the Port of Long Beach with DHL and having a few drinks, and then I went up to my old alma mater in NAU. For where I briefly studied, although to be honest, I spent most of my time in Mexico. Sorry, Chico. I had a bit of
that's a different podcast altogether.
Yeah, a different one. Yeah. But I flew back and I had tickets for Liverpool playing Atletico Madrid, and so this is a famous game. We get knocked out. So I flew back from Vegas just in time. And I remember the date because my birthday's on March the 11th. And I think it was actually on March the 11th. Now, what's happened in Europe at this point is Madrid's locked down for COVID, but they were allowed to travel. So 5,000 Madridistas flew over, or Atletico supporters flew over.
Yeah, don't call them
Atleti. I can know. Yeah. So they fly into Liverpool anyway. So a side point is that Liverpool became this big spreading ground point after this. After
one of the first super spreader events, I think
that was So there was two super spreader events in Britain. One was that match, and the other one was the Cheltenham Festival, which is I think that the same week. And the whole of Britain got cut down, locked down the week after, if I remember right. So I went to this match, and it was absolutely awful. Alisson was injured. We had the Spanish fella in goal. I forgot his name, but he had a terrible, terrible game. Evan, my son, was very disappointed. And then that was the end of the season. So we win the league, but that's the last game of football I think that Liverpool played with a crowd. Maybe there was one more after that.
Yeah.
And the similarities this year, okay, God, thank goodness there was no COVID. But I left TPM. This time it was on. I started driving up the West Coast with Kerry, and we pulled over somewhere in Northern California, and Liverpool were playing PSG. Again, it's my birthday, and we lost. We lost. And that was the end of our season. So there was no COVID lockdown. But really, the season ended with when we got beaten by PSG. You had about a 6-week period where the quadruple was on, and then all of a sudden it became like a one trophy, but a foregone conclusion trophy in like 6 weeks or something. Yeah, it felt it was like, so I had no expectations for the season at all, but it did feel sort of a little bit like a bit of a damp squib, even though any sort of logic will tell you we were, I'd have taken 4th position and a cup final that we lost at the beginning of the season. I never expected anything. I don't think a single pundit backed Liverpool to win the league. But then by the time we'd sort of ran away with it, it just felt like there was more in this team. And I think there probably was. There might well be next season, because this is a really good Liverpool team, and he's a really good coach. You could tell it instantly that we were playing differently. So this is a different team than that Klopp team. It's a lot more controlled. There's a lot more football through the midfield. Both fullbacks never go up. Trent was really reined in this season. I'm sure we'll come back to Trent. The attacking play was way more structured. Gravenberch, the way that we play through the central midfield with McAllister and Gravenberch is brilliant. The run in from Szoboszlai. It's a very, very different feel, even though it's the same players under Slot to last season. I saw
Slot a bit of Feyenoord's team that he won the Dutch league with, and I thought, this guy knows like how to get the most out of his players. That was what I took away from.
Did you? So the tactics. I started reading up on Feyenoord and everything about those tactics when I knew we were getting him. But and it seems like Liverpool have recruited him really well to suit our squad, which is probably the counterpoint to what they've done at Man United with Amorim, who we were looking at.
We can both twist the screw in on that one a little bit.
Yeah, I'll just throw that in. But we looked at Amorim and went, well, we haven't got any full wing backs, so why would we get a coach who only plays with wing backs? You need to then buy 4 wing backs, because it's one of the most exhausting positions.
It's the most exhausting. You know, it's funny. I just watched, which is sort of this is like saying Mo Salah is my inspiration for football, right? Like, come on, you couldn't be at possible at different ends of the spectrum, but the overlap, which is an amazing podcast, and I encourage anyone to watch who actually wants to hear what real footballers have to say about things. They just had Thierry Henry on, and he talked about
the football version.
Yeah, he talked
I love
about
it as well.
the 6. Did you catch this episode? He talked
I
about
haven't seen all of the Henry one, but I think I've probably watched all the rest. I love it, the way the design of it and the way they just chat. So it's great, isn't it?
Amazing.
Roy Keane at his best as well.
So Henry gets on and talks about how he goes to Juve and they put him as a wingback, essentially. The coach changed, and he was like a left wingback, and he said it was the best. I hated it, but it was the best 6 months of my career because it made me appreciate how hard everybody else has to work to provide me service. And I never took that for granted ever again, because he used to be a winger, he used to be a forward, but he never had to run. And yeah, I don't know if anybody who hasn't played that position understands how exhausting it is to be doing full sprints for 90 minutes in both directions.
Ground you have to cover when the midfield and everyone else goes in. Yeah, it's a hard position.
Yeah. Okay.
How do you feel about your lead season, Eric? How do you feel about your promotion? You must be super happy, but I mean, I've spoken to people and they're getting promoted. It's like, it can be poison chalice, because you get used to watching winning, and then get Premier League's very difficult.
Exactly it. Yeah. So the last 2 seasons I think we've had 190 points or something like that, an absurd amount of points. Yeah, so you go into the weekend kind of like thinking that a win is not a foregone conclusion, but you expect to win, and then you instantly your expectations change completely, and it's like, let's not get our head kicked in. Let's grab a point. Oh, this team is vulnerable right now. If we don't take 3 points here, where are we going to get 3 points over the next month? And it becomes like this real like march toward what seems like the inevitable. So it's there's a whole nother discussion to be had about the English game and whether the gap between the top 15 teams and everybody else is becoming too much to bridge now. It was a joy to watch this team this year, especially since they lost a lot of the creativity that kind of defined the last year. They sold Archie Gray, which I'm still annoyed about, but
he's a great player,
Great player. It's going to be weird playing against him next year. If he waited 1 year, he probably goes up with us, So, but somehow we actually, I think we're a more consistent team this year without some of the players we lost. There's a player who I hope his game translates to the Premiership as well as I think it will, and people are going to fall in love with him. This guy, Ayo Tanaka, is a Japanese midfielder. He's from the first moment we saw him, he was like,
where did you get him from?
We bought him, I believe, from Dusseldorf, which was in the second division of Bundesliga. And I think we paid £2.5 million for him. And he's like, wow. He's one of these classic like midfielders. You can put him at any position, attacking, holding, box to box. He does everything really well. He doesn't do anything like at a superstar level, but he does everything well. He's super tidy, and he plays with a big smile on his face the whole time. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how he adapts, because I think he's going to be amazing, and probably someone will buy him for £40 million next year, but whatever it is. So
where's your goals coming from? Because like Daniel James hasn't, I know, was he your second top scorer last season? He's not really done it in the Premier League previously, although he's an exciting player.
Yeah.
Patrick Bamford's older than me, isn't he?
He's not, but he's
as well.
So we obviously need a striker. We need pace with a little more sophistication. Dan James is great on the counter. If you put him into space, he can run all day. He's improved his crossing and shooting a bit from when we first bought him, but yeah, he's definitely like that tweener player. Excellent in the Championship, struggles to, play 90 minutes in the Prem.
There is something there as a player, for sure.
For sure.
And how's your defense looking?
Joel Piroux, who's our top scorer.
That's the key for a team coming up, I think.
Well, I'll stay with goals for a second. Joel Piroux.
Yeah, go on.
probably one of the cleanest strikers of the ball I've ever seen. If you get him in scoring positions, 2 out of 3 times he's going to put it in the back of the net. Challenge is he's not very pacey. So if he was struggling for pace in the championship, I think he's going to really struggle to get space for himself in against better teams. So, sometimes those types of players adapt and they find their little gaps. And if you can score, if you can take chances, you can, they'll be there. There will be chances, as we've seen. We are now in an era of scoring. We're not in an era of defending. So defending, I'm actually in a good place with our defense. I think we have 3 really strong center backs who are in the prime of their career, who have all played at the top level before, and are better since they last played. So I'm not, injuries obviously can be a problem, but I don't think that's an area they need to invest. The right back, Jaden Bogle, was probably their best player all year. He was really good. So left back, we need to figure out. But I don't know. We need to invest everywhere. Every single block needs an upgrade, basically, including goal. Like, our keeper was an absolute train wreck last year. We would have won the division by 20 points if he hadn't consistently dropped balls into his own net, almost like on purpose. It looked like sometimes, but.
Well, I think, you missed out on Kelleher, but if you want Simicast, I think he's might be available if you need a left back. He has been linked.
I saw that. I'm annoyed that we lost Kelleher, but he's going to a more established team who's going to lose probably all of their best players this year too. So,
has there been any talk of James Milner coming back? I mean,
I saw a report. I know he said it's a bad injury issue. It would be great to bring him back. It would be great for him to finish his career at Leeds. That would be amazing.
I would like that.
He'd be good for the dressing room for sure. Yeah. So when I lived in Leeds for a year, 2002, 2003, and
hence the connection.
Yeah, and he was just coming up at that point. So when he was 16 and he scored, I think it was against Chelsea. That was in 2003.
I remember it.
So yeah, that was a long time ago. Like, my life, that feels like a galaxy away. It's hard to believe he's still playing professionally.
I feel like that when it's Ashley. I see Ashley Young. I remember Gerard Houllier was the manager, I believe, and I had away tickets at Watford, and he was a young player, and my kids have grown up and he's still playing.
Totally. It's crazy.
It's slightly crazy. I can barely remember myself at that age, and he's still running around.
Yeah. Milner might be the only player who's still playing who was playing when I was in England. So
that is quite mad, isn't it?
All right. What's your most controversial opinion about football? It could be about a player, it could be about a team, it could be about a rule.
Most controversial. Well, I don't like VAR. I don't know if that's
that controversial anymore.
No.
What don't you like about it?
It's just it's the delay. Well, do you know what? When I say I don't like VAR, there's some bits of getting decisions right that I think is good. Like whether the ball goes over the line, that the basics.
Sure.
Offside, I think it can be automated. It's when you've got idiots in the box that are making decisions and still getting them wrong when they've got the advantage of all of these tools.
Right.
Then what's the point? Because it slows the game down. It takes away the excitement of a goal, which you asked me earlier about what was that moment that probably hooks you, and I probably didn't answer it right, because I think probably the moment that hooks everybody is that feeling of a goal going in and that communal euphoria.
Yeah.
And I think that the VAR has taken that away a little bit. Really, you get it, and then you're like, was it a goal? Was it a goal? You know what I mean? You're all looking around. So I think it's taken away that hook, that real, I don't know, visceral excitement that you get when the goal goes in and there's no doubt about it. And people haven't seen that for quite a number of years now. But I think it would still be fine if they just got it a little bit better. And I think that's a Premier League problem, because it seems to work in other competitions.
It's automated a little bit more.
Yeah. So maybe VAR is not the problem. Maybe it's the people.
I watch a lot of Spanish, and there's definitely some decisions that are head scratching. The VAR makes. It's definitely not an English one. The automated offside definitely is better in other leagues. I would say So there was an interesting moment. I don't know. Did you catch that absolutely bonkers semifinal between Barca and Inter Milan? Did you see that?
Yes, I did. Yeah,
Okay.
what a game! What
Do
a
you
game!
remember the second goal for Inter? There was a penalty on Kubarsi that wasn't originally awarded, but VAR awarded it.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember the exact incident. Yeah,
He
it
sort
was
of tracked
ridiculous.
back and made a tackle from behind, and it looked
Yeah,
in real time like he had gotten the ball. And then they go to VAR, and like, you know, by a hundredth of a millimeter, he catches the guy's leg first, and then gets the ball. And Arsene Wenger was in one of the studios, and he made the point. He's like, what are we doing? What
yeah,
are we
yeah,
doing?
yeah.
Like, referees make a decision. The VAR should be to correct an obvious mistake. Was this by the absolute letter of the law a foul? Yes, but in real time, like, these are humans playing the sport, humans deciding on the sport. Like, that's not what we're supposed to be doing here. So, and I like whoever you support, right? Like, I would have been annoyed to have won that penalty if that was my team getting an award. I would have been like, that was not really a penalty foul, you know?
Well, you go back to the what are you trying to change? What are you trying to improve here? And if it's this is supposed to be entertainment, so you don't
Yeah.
want to re-referee it. And I don't. You can't say someone's made it. I think when they look back at it, they really need to slow everything down?
Yeah.
Because a slight touch in slow motion looks like it could have caused a serious thing. But you can tell when it's at normal speed whether it was something that would make someone fall off balance. But in slow motion, it's not clear.
Right.
So maybe there's a way of doing that slightly differently so that people aren't just slowing everything down to and go, did he touch him? Did he not? Was it just before the ball? Was it after? Because sometimes you might touch someone and go through and get the ball. And it's like, if you've played a lot of football, that's not a foul, but it could look like one in slow motion.
Yep. Maybe they need 60 seconds. They get 60 seconds to look at it. And if it takes more than that, you shouldn't change it.
It's not deliberate. It's not a deliberate error.
It wasn't obvious to change, right?
Yes, exactly.
If you need 5 minutes, then it wasn't obvious.
Yeah, when it takes that long, it's just getting ridiculous. And then the game goes on for 100 minutes and yeah. So I don't know, was that controversial enough? I could do something else if you want.
Yeah, controversy. I want
to keep his job. Is that controversial?
You want him to keep his job?
I want him to keep his job because I love the way that he plays this suicidal high line. Like, I found myself watching Spurs all year. I just can't keep my eyes off them because then they'll go and smash Man City, but then I was just like, what are you doing? Like, the midfield have got no idea where they're supposed to mark people. I used to play in central midfield. I was like, what are you doing when you've got the ball? Like, they haven't got a clue where they're going to be. And the defenders just like don't tell them what to do. They just line up on the halfway line or even inside the opposition half.
Yeah.
And you're just waiting for the breakaway. But then they're great going forward. So
that midfield there's no room to operate, right? Because the attackers are compressed too because they want space to run into. And then the defenders are sitting like right in their back pocket. So they're like, what do you do as a central mid? Like, you have no room to operate at all.
They don't seem to have any idea about like where's the you look at the like Bazuma, who I used to think was a good player at Brighton, and I can't remember the name of the other guy. Sarr, is it? And and you're like, what? Or don't you see where that the space is, right? Porro's just literally disappeared somewhere. He's down by the corner flag and he's going to stay there. You have to cover that channel because that's where the break can happen if you lose the ball. It's not that difficult to work it out, but they don't seem to have any clue. And when he gets asked about it afterwards, he goes, and these are clear things and it's a pattern and the same things happen again and again. And he just says, he goes, we attacked well and they've lost 4-0. I love the man. I love the man. So
I know.
I don't know if it's controversial. Please stay, Ange.
As someone who's more sympathetic to Arsenal than Spurs, I'm very happy for him to stay in the position. So yeah, I agree. That's slightly controversial. I think most Spurs fans would wholeheartedly. Well, I don't know. Actually, they might have some sort of weird conflicted view of him, right? Because
they might do, because they are Spursy and they are, they sort of revel in losing in really bad ways. And he's a genius. He's basically your archetypal perfect Spurs manager. Beautiful football, losers. He's like Ozzy Ardiles reborn.
Yeah, that's all right. We'll go with that as a controversial opinion. And we'll see how that plays out. We don't know. All right. Favorite ever player?
It's gonna. I mean, I'm torn a bit because I did love Kenny Dalglish. I also really liked Alan Hansen, who was way before his time in terms of ball playing centre half. But you probably know what it's going to be. It's got to be Gerrard.
Well, okay. My worst Scottish accent is only due to watching Alan Hansen on BBC. He was on BBC, right? So it's like the defending is absolutely diabolical. I just remember him saying that over and over and over.
Diabolical, yeah. I can't, yeah.
Okay, Steven Gerrard, Stevie G.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Robbie
Fowler.
Phil
Collins fan. Big Phil Collins fan.
There is a long story about Robbie Fowler, but maybe we could do that another time if there is another time.
We won't get into his famous goal celebration, but also a Leeds player for a while.
Yeah, and I've also a relative, but weirdly enough, but I found this out later on when it would have been useful for me socially. So I was playing in the same leagues in South Liverpool, but he was playing up a couple of. I think he's a year younger than me, and he was playing a year above me in the same sort of area. So South Liverpool leagues, it was very, very competitive. A lot of players went on to be professionals at lower levels. So it was super, super competitive leagues. But he was playing there, and then he moved just down the road from me, and he used to go in the local pub, and I never used to say anything to him. And then since then, as time went on, I just had, when he was at Leeds, I think was it maybe Leeds or no, maybe it was Cardiff. I ended up in the stands and I was sat just down from him. But we used to call him God at Liverpool.
I remember.
So when I'm like, when he's just breaking into the team, I'm sort of a late teenager. I'm just going to university. A link to Robbie Fowler would have been great. I would have been on a dining off this for years and years, a whole decade.
Yeah.
Way, way past. He's retired. I go to see my lovely great aunt, who for the final time, and I've never heard this story before up to this point. And then she goes, "How's our Robbie doing?" And I'm like, "What do you mean, our Robbie?" He says, "Robbie Fowler." I was like, "What do you mean, our Robbie?" I mean, I love Robbie Fowler. I was like, what do you mean, Robbie? He's your relative. I was like, you're kidding. Now you tell me that I'm a relative of God.
So he's a cousin, distant cousin.
He's a second cousin. Yeah, but I wouldn't. I'd have left out the second part. So I think he's a second cousin. Hold on. I think our nans are sisters. So, but this is when he was a player in the leagues. He was super famous even then.
Yeah.
He was known as Robbie Ryder. So my nan is a Ryder, and they're all Irish from the Ryder family. But he changed his name. I think maybe because the Ryder family got into a bit of trouble. Anyway, maybe I should finish there. But my favorite player is Gerrard.
And how come?
I think because we most of his career we were rubbish, and we had some rubbish players. And the longer time passes, the more you see that he just carried. He carried that team again and again and again. I mean, some of those players he was playing with, they wouldn't get near the reserves now.
Yeah.
I mean, some of the things he did. I mean, there's Istanbul. He was a force of nature.
The FA Cup goal. I mean,
that FA Cup goal. I mean, he was off just before he scores that goal. He's off the side of the pitch with awful cramp. Who else scores that goal? The Olympiacos goal.
Yeah.
I was at the quarter-final against Juventus at Anfield, and then the semi-final against Chelsea. I'm lucky enough to get tickets in the Anfield Road end. That game against Chelsea in early 2005, I think. Yeah, it would have been. That was, the atmosphere was amazing, and you only believe.
Was that the Luis Garcia goal that wasn't a goal?
Yeah, that was that.
But it would have been a penalty.
That's the one. That's the one. Yeah, Luis Garcia as well in the Juventus game in the quarterfinals. I was sitting there and I was like, "What's he doing?" He got the ball like 5 times and just gave it away cheaply. And I was like, "My God, he's having a nightmare." When he's having one of those games, Luis Garcia, he's a nightmare. He was a nightmare. And I think I was slagging him off, and people saying, "Just give him a minute, And he turns around and he smacks one in the top corner past Buffon, I think it was. Yeah, and that semi-final, that game, the atmosphere then. I don't know if this is a story for everybody, but I went to the urinals and I'm just standing there and I'm like, I'm not drunk, but things are swaying. And I'm like, why is the water moving sideways? And the reason why, sorry, that's quite a graphic story. I hope no one's eating, but it was because the stadium was rocking, was actually swaying. The building was swaying.
Yeah.
And if you speak to any of the old players who played in the glory days, they always go back to that game as like the greatest ever atmosphere at Anfield. And I went into work and I was interviewing people the days after, and I couldn't speak. It's like I just had my vocal cords had snapped. That was an amazing atmosphere. Sang my heart out. The party afterwards was amazing. And we were such underdogs. So yes, Steven Gerrard made dreams come true.
Yeah, he was a force of nature. I'd say he loved his Hollywood ball though. That's for sure.
Oh, he did. His passing, he did sometimes push that a bit too much, but I think he was one of those players that because he could do it all, it was very difficult to know which club not to play in a golfing sort of terms.
Yep.
But he had everything: left foot, right foot, pace,
he would
power.
rather commit an error of commission than omission, right? So
yeah, he could. I think he could just do anything. Yeah, there was not many players that can just take a game by the scruff of the neck and win it by himself, and he was just one of those. Pleasure to watch.
What's your favorite team? And by that I mean obviously you're a Liverpool supporter, but do you remember? Is there one team that sticks out that's like the one that you will always like
hate?
No. One your favorite team that like
team.
a single team a year.
Oh yeah. This will probably surprise you, but it's the it'd have to be the Gerard Houllier team of 2001. So if you think
That's the year they won the UEFA Cup.
Yeah, so this is
if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, so this is the treble season. I got a lot of tickets this season. I had a sort of loan on a season ticket, and I got to a lot of away games. I got to the FA Cup, so the three finals. But I like this team. We've gone through this sort of Roy Evans period where we were sort of built to lose. It was a bit Spursy, to be honest. And all of a sudden, Houllier brings in a bit of steel, and I quite like this team as it's developing. And we've become this great cup team, and it feels like we're close to getting back to where I'd always assumed we would be, which is having parades every single summer. Yeah. But we've had 10 years or 11 years at this point, 2001, and then we have this fantastic season.
You win both the domestic cups and the UEFA, whatever was it called, the UEFA Cup back then, I believe.
I think it was not. It was the Coca. Was it still the Coca-Cola Cup, the FA Cup, and then the UEFA Cup? Yeah. So I'm the Coca-Cola Cup. That's the first one that happens. This is a terrible game. Jamie Carragher, I think, actually scores a penalty to win it. Liverpool were terrible, but I'm watching this in Chamonix in skiing in France, and we're all 30 of us, loads of great. It's a great trip. And we all leave. I'm the only Liverpool fan, but everyone comes down to the pub to get all the tables early. And no one supports Liverpool, but we were all singing and dancing all night. It was a great night. The second final, got a ticket. I was right there. We got battered. This is one of the reasons why Arsenal. It was so good.
Arsenal.
This is the Arsenal team, yeah. The Wenger team, brilliant team. We totally didn't deserve a thing out of this game. It's probably the same as the Coca-Cola Cup. And Michael Owen scores these two goals, and Honcho gets away with about three hand. Yeah, Stefan Honcho gets away with about 3 handballs. We were battered on. I think
now I know why you don't like VAR.
Yeah. VAR. That's a 5-0 game. I'm sat where Michael Owen scores his goal with his left foot cuts across. I'm sat right on that part of the line on that part of the 6-yard box. Again, massive party in Cardiff, and then I was over in Dortmund for the UEFA Cup final, and that was just a brilliant day. Alaves fans were amazing. So the Alaves fans, right? I don't know if you know this. That's a tiny town.
Yeah.
And everyone who's a member, that kit that they were wearing that day, they all had their names embroidered into it. Did you know that?
I remember that. Yeah.
I was like, wish I'd got one of those. People were swapping them. They were brilliant. The fans were great, right? It started raining. We're down the main square. It started raining, and we all go into a bar, and the Spanish band are playing the Liverpool songs, and we're all singing, and they're all singing, and then all Liverpool fans are trying to sing all the Spanish songs
in Dortmund.
in Dortmund, and then watched the match. Went back. I think I slept at the airport and went straight into work. Sorry, Informer.
They never knew.
This is like counseling. I'm confessing everything here.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah. You're. Do you feel absolved?
I do. I do.
All right. Well, let's get it. Let's really get into confessions here. Who is the player that you hate the most across the span of history?
Um, this is okay. Hate's a strong word. So there's
We
that
all have
Chelsea
to.
team. We were just talking about that Chelsea team. 2005. This is a gnarly. I've got a degree of admiration. This is like Essien. This is John Terry, Frank Lampard, but it was a real
Serial
strong
winners.
physical
Yeah.
team. But
Pogba.
Jose Mourinho is such an arsehole, like so often, and he always has been. He's basically built his career on just being so obnoxious and rude and
Yeah.
horrible. I've got no time for the man whatsoever. But that team, there was people in that team to hate. Fat Frank is just a bit of a dick. Sorry for swearing, but
No, it's all good.
he
Leeds,
just he
Leeds,
just
Leeds
is.
fans would say the same. So yeah.
Yeah, there's something about him. Now, John Terry, this is the man that it's just come out. Actually, Makaleli said that he actually when he missed that penalty against Man United. I've got two reasons for disliking him for this. He misses that penalty in the Champions League final. Man United win. That's bad enough, John. But apparently, he took the penalty off the penalty taker because he wanted the glory. He also runs onto the pitch when Chelsea did win the Champions League and lifted up the trophy in his kit when
He was
he
suspended.
wasn't playing. I mean, this is a sad man. He was father of the year or dad of the year while he was running around by
Wayne Bridges'
allegedly.
wife.
Yeah. This is not. And then there's like his family. I mean, there's been quite a few scandals around there. There's a bit of racism in there as well. But he's not the player I'm going to choose from this team.
Wow. Okay. All right. I like the setup. This is like the runner-up.
Yeah,
Honorable mention.
this is it should be John Terry, but
Yeah.
Didier Drogba used to do my head in.
Yeah.
He was an absolute pain for Liverpool. He was so good against us all the time.
Yeah.
But brilliant player. Sounds like a great bloke, but I hated his guts. His diving used to drive me to distraction, and they always won, and it was always because of him. So I'm going to choose Didier Drogba. Irrationally, I admit.
I was going to say in sport we have a irrational hatred of people who are otherwise like fine people, fine sportsmen, but they just they've been a thorn in our side or something. So in reality, like John Terry, sorry for anyone who likes him, or like I'm not besmirching his character, not one of the world's greatest humans.
No.
So
Didier Drogba,
captain, legend, whatever they have on that that banner that they always pull out for him. But yeah, like by all accounts, not a fantastic dude.
Not really, no. But Didier Drogba, suppose by all accounts he is. So my I think maybe if he was a Liverpool player, I would have absolutely loved him.
For sure.
John Terry can stay a million miles away though.
Yeah, it's fine. Okay, what team? I suppose we're going down. I suppose you foreshadowed who the team that you most despise is. Is it Chelsea or is it Man U or?
It's Man U. It's got to be Man U. It's got to be Man U. I must admit, this is going to make me sound really. This is more counselling coming in here. This is going to make me sound so pathetic and small-minded. When they lost the Europa Cup, I couldn't stop listening because they've gambled everything. I'll forget the giggles now. They gambled the whole season on this final. I watched it, and then they didn't turn up. And I've got nothing against people from Manchester. They're very, very similar to Scousers. Same sense of humour. Most of them got Irish backgrounds. Yeah. But we've got this long history. So there's always that. But it was just something about this season. I found myself walking the dog, listening to Man United podcasts and laughing out loud for most of the day after.
Just reveling in others' misery. It's amazing. Yeah. That's the ultimate. That's the ultimate level of sport.
This is not a good look. If I can do some intellectual gymnastics, I'm going to try and absolve myself of this small-minded patheticness and blame it on the Manchester ship canal. Bring us back to shipping, because I think this is genetically not my fault, because the two cities have been opposed for so long. So they tried to take the glory of the Industrial Revolution away from Liverpool. So I think I'm still probably spiteful about it.
Fully justified. Okay, so let's get into a conversation, because I think this is a good lead in. I don't know if I plan to talk to you about this, but I think about this all the time. So I am violently opposed, not like physically violent, but let's say vehemently opposed to the which is a natural phenomenon in any sport, but especially in football, of the glory hunters, right? The supporters who, I would say like the current crop of people who have quote unquote always loved Man City, right? Were you
Yeah.
there when Sean Goder was scoring 12 goals for them in the second division? No, you were not, right? So it's interesting right now, right? Because we're in a phase where it's now going on 12 years since Man U were the Man U that I sort of grew up like hating for good reason. And it's not that I feel bad for them or sorry for them, but there is a thing of like how pathetic can this become before this just like it's interesting because like when I started following football, which is like the late 90s, as an adult, I was already an adult. Um, it was they were the only household name in the US at least when it came to football. And then Chelsea started to sort of make a name for themselves, and then Man City and Liverpool. So now you have 4 or 5 teams that are, but because we have so much on right now, so you can watch every single match in all of Europe and the US now. It's a little more fragmented. You don't have, but there are still like most of the kids are wearing Man City shirts. They're wearing Chelsea shirts. They're wearing Liverpool shirts. What do you make of like supporting a team that has already had a degree of success that versus a team that you're setting yourself up for a lifetime of pain?
I don't know. It's strange because I just happened to be born in Liverpool, and I randomly end up supporting Liverpool, despite my father trying to do the opposite. So,
But you were born there, and
yeah,
this
I
was not a
know.
time when it was all over TV, and people were not necessarily as famous as they
Yeah,
are now.
I
I'm
know,
not.
but I'm lucky. That's sort of like
Yeah,
I'm like, great. I was dead lucky there.
yeah,
But when I've been like, so I've lived over in Asia for quite a lot of time, and like but there is the support, the fandom has been passed down generations. So I went to watch like Liverpool play the Singapore national team on the Singapore National
national
Day.
day. Yeah,
And everyone was in a Liverpool kit,
yeah,
including everyone from Singapore. No
yeah,
one was supporting Singapore. So there's that, and that was just sort of, this is before Liverpool are becoming good again.
yeah.
So there was that remnants. But I read in the Athletic, I think it was an interview with someone, maybe from the Hong Kong Supporters Association. I think this is more of an international thing and he was saying there's like this gap now where all the kids are wearing Man City, they're wearing Liverpool, they're wearing the teams that are doing well, there's a whole generation that aren't supporting Man United.
Yeah.
This is Ed Woodward's legacy, I guess. So, but I
Especially when they go to
understand.
Asia and lose to the Hong Kong team and the Malaysia team. So
But if you're new to a sport and you like it, you're not going to choose a rubbish team, are you? But unless you've got a link to it, in which case, the jumping around, that you shouldn't do
that's a
that. And
phenomenon. There's kids.
yeah,
There's kids. My son tries to stay true to his teams. There's
I have
kids.
to say, here, Eric, I've got my younger brother Dan, and he hates this. We still call him Judas. He did move from Liverpool to Everton. It's one of the great disasters of judgment that anyone's ever had at age
Wouldn't trust
9.
him. Wouldn't trust
He's regretted it ever since. He's now trying to bribe his kids not to support Everton.
I think there's an element of, in this sport particularly, that there's an element of pain as part of it. Like there's more gratification when you've suffered and when you know what suffering is than when you just win consistently, and you consider a year that you didn't win a trophy to be like the depths of despair, versus when you literally have nothing. You don't even have an exciting player in your squad. You're just literally going there because of the shirt and because out of like force of habit. Yeah, I'm a big believer in like you have to experience pain in this game.
I think I chose the 2001 team probably for that reason. Yeah, it's a good point. It was I'd been so used to winning every season that it just felt normal. And then when it's taken away from you, you actually appreciate it a lot more. Probably a lesson in life there too, actually.
Yeah, I guess so. All right, Trent. We talked about Trent Alexander-Arnold, for those who are not familiar with him on a first name basis. Made the decision. He's moving to Madrid, unfortunately, on multiple levels because I despise Madrid. But What do you make of it? How do they replace him?
I tell you what, it's so great not being the person who has to establish the context, because when someone's using shorthand, I'm so used to doing that myself.
Yeah.
So the Trent thing, there's two different views on this, and I think my first reaction was, well, you sign a contract with the club, the contract comes to an end. If you want to leave, you can leave. Would I have probably I would have probably been one of those people that might have gone, do you know what, I've done enough here, I want to live somewhere else. But I've always had itchy feet.
Yep.
But I can sort of empathize with him. But I've spoken to a lot of Liverpool fans about this, and they feel a bit, he's a very smart lad. They feel a bit like there might have been a plan that he hasn't really sort of confessed to, that maybe it was quite a long-term plan. This is where people are feel a bit bitter about it. He did get a good reception in the end, and I'm glad. I never would have in a million years booed him. He definitely never deserve that, and that was most.
So meaning he ran down his contract on purpose so that he could make a decision, and Liverpool wouldn't get the any sort of transfer fee for him.
Yeah, and he did bang the sort of, I'm just a young lad from Liverpool living the dream, and people believed him. If you're going to play that card, then it might come back at you a little bit later on when it works out that actually your dream was playing for Real Madrid, one of our rivals who everyone hates.
Right.
But so there's two schools of thought. I mean, almost everyone I know, a Liverpool fan, was really embarrassed that Liverpool fans booed him. But singing about Steven Gerrard was a reasonable thing to do, and I'm glad he got a good reception in the end. But I think his legacy might be a little bit like Michael Owen's, where people might go, oh, he's a great player, but they might not really, in his after career, he might not really feel like he's associated with a particular club, which maybe you don't get the pundit jobs, because people do tend to be associated with clubs who get the jobs. I don't know how that'll play out for him, but maybe he won't mind.
So a couple things. Very interesting. So was the antipathy sort of related to where he went, or that he went in the way that he did?
I think it was different for different people. I mean, I don't blame him at all for making a decision that's best for his life myself.
But Madrid is like, Liverpool fans do not like Madrid. Is that
no? We had that, the Ramos on Salah in 2018 when he deliberately
tried to break his.
No way he didn't do that on purpose. And then there was the Loris Karius debacle right after that. They also, we battered them in the next time.
Absolutely destroyed. If not for Courtois, you would have won 4-0. But yeah, for sure.
They are, they are an amazing, great team. But I don't know. I don't think Liverpool fans tend not to be big fans of Real Madrid. And so going to Real Madrid when there has been quite a bit of controversy with them, we've also lost two other players in the past to them, but they left. Michael Owen and McManaman left when we were rubbish.
Yeah.
Trent's leaving us when we're actually a better team than Madrid.
Upswing. Yeah, for sure.
So people, especially people from Liverpool, are like, "What the hell are you doing? You are from Liverpool. You said this was your dream.
Yeah.
When did that change?" And they don't really buy what he said. But I say,
it's not as though he won a European Cup. It's not like you can understand, oh, I'm going to go to Madrid because, like Mbappe, I'm going to go to Madrid because over the course of my time there, the chances are I will win a European Cup. But he's won one. Right?
He's won one.
He doesn't even have to tick that box anymore.
You could say he's more likely to win one with us than with that team. I don't know. I'm sure both of them will be in the running though, and the chances are we'll play each other. And I think he'll get a hell of a reception at Anfield, and not in a good way when he comes back. But maybe we should have saved it for when he comes back and not just giving him a good send off and being sporting, which is what Liverpool fans have always been famous for.
Right.
Being fair minded and being sporting. So I didn't think that was Liverpool fans at their best, but there was a reason for it for a lot of people.
There's rumors are that Florian Wirtz is coming.
So our season finished in March, but now we're winning the transfer window, which is a stupid phrase that I hate when people use it, but we are. And I'm really enjoying it. I'm sitting there trying to work, and I'm like, I've got to watch. I've got to look at. Do you do this as well? Who we link to?
All the time. Yeah.
And you're reading stuff that's terrible journalism.
Oh, it's
And
not even journalism. It's just
it's clickbait. I know it's lies,
but it doesn't
except for
matter.
like 3 people. You know it's a lie. Why are you reading it? I don't know, but it's so exciting. It's almost more exciting than the football. So yeah, we get Florian
Fabrizio
Wirtz,
Romano
though.
usually has right. He usually when there's smoke, there's fire with him. It's hard to write a
Yeah,
story that he didn't get right.
Romano, David Ornstein in the Athletic. They're the two definites. And then there's certain journalists as James Pearce, Ladyman, Paul Joyce that really normally know what's going on at Liverpool.
Yeah.
So there's some reliable journalists for that. But I still read all the crap that's just made up. I click on it every single day. It's the first thing I do when I look in the morning. Total waste of time. If you're listening, don't do it. It's bad for you.
That's part of the joy. Part of the joy is the hope that kills you, right?
So, Florian Wirtz, very surprising, very exciting. We're linked to quite a few players, but if Wirtz, Kerkez, and Frimpong's already in, just that alone will we'll have a very interesting team. You need to replace some of the creativity that you lose when Trent Alexander-Arnold leaves. So
yeah, Frimpong is definitely a totally different player.
Totally,
but exciting in his own way. But definitely nowhere near the passer. I don't know if anyone at right back is near the passer that Trent is, but
I don't think anyone's ever been as good with their, even just if you just take out his right foot, he was so good with his left foot as well. I mean, there's never been a fullback with as good a right foot as Trent's left foot. I mean, he could hit a 50-yard pass with his left. I couldn't believe it. Yeah, he's the best passer I've ever seen, and I've watched a lot of Jan Molby back in the day. Glenn Hoddle, I remember watching these famous passers. Platini, David Beckham, saw him quite a lot live, but I've never seen anyone with the range as Trent. Gerrard as well, but Trent had the best range. In golf terms, he had every single club.
Yep. All right. We probably need to wrap this up because we're past.
Oh God, time flies.
It does fly. We'll have to do a part 2 at some point. I did want to mention Champions League final was in Munich, and you were in Paris during the Champions League final, and then you went to Munich the day after the final. Is that correct?
The morning after. How weird. How weird was that? So I'm just near I don't know if anyone knows. If you're headed north from Notre Dame, you go right. You're in an area called Marais, and we were just sort of on the outer skirts of Marais area, where it sort of stops being all beautiful buildings and becomes high rises, and there's a bit more local. I thought I'll just pop down and watch Paris. In Paris, you've got to go and watch Paris Saint-Germain in a Champions League final, and they are a brilliant team.
Yeah,
and it was down like the local bars. It was quite a weird atmosphere, I have to say. It's not something I've experienced. It just felt tiny bit tense. It wasn't the atmosphere in the pub, although that was very different than sort of an atmosphere you get in an English pub where everyone's just getting really drunk and singing and stuff like that, which brings its own dangers. But it felt like there was gangs on the street, even just there. I mean, I think it was worse in other parts of Paris. There was people who weren't interested in football hanging around the street.
Yep.
And the first goal goes in, and obviously this is people who aren't watching the match, where they're just standing there waiting for firecrackers, because in seconds the entire street was blacked out with smoke, and it's buffeting into the bar that I'm sitting in, which is all open because it's quite warm. It was really quite weird. And my wife Kerry's like, shall I come down? I was like, no, if you're going to come down, I'll come and get you. We're only about 300, 400 meters away. I'll come and pick you up, because it's a bit weird out on the street. That was sort of calmed down, but obviously if you followed what happened, there was people died, and there was hundreds of arrests.
And Dembele in the post-match interview, he said, please take care of yourselves. Don't. And they didn't listen to him. So
no, so it was sort of weird, and they do celebrate, but it's a different sort of fandom. So as the players are all going up to get their medals, we came. I went and got Kerry, and we went down another bar, and there's people driving around on motorbikes, and they're all beeping, and they're like doing wheelies, and even people on line bikes, which is sort of slightly sad, I thought. Anyway, side point. But then they're going up to get their medals, and if that's like Liverpool, every time the player goes up, everyone cheers and everyone knows who they are. And I was looking around the bar, I was like, no one's cheering them getting their medals. And I don't think half of them know who the players are. Just my feeling. And then everyone went home. And then obviously the streets were then left to the rioters. And then the next morning, we're flying down to Transport Logistic. And as we're at the airport, people are flying in from Madrid. You could see they're slightly worse for wear. And then we get to Madrid and they're having this cleanup. Yeah. So,
Munich,
yeah, we
Munich.
were sort of, yeah, in Munich. We get to Munich and they're having this cleanup. And there'd been a bit of trouble there as well. People were telling us. Yeah. So a bit of a weird one when you win 5-0.
PSG is a strange club from a support standpoint, and also obviously they're the owners, right, like create another level of
they do
discussion points that maybe that we can talk about all of that on part 2 of our discussion whenever that is, because they're not going away anytime soon. The Petro State soccer owners. But from a game standpoint, I felt like that match made me feel the same way that when I saw Barca beat Man United the first time in 2009, where Xavi and Iniesta absolutely dominated the ball in a way I've never seen two players like just control an entire match against a team that had literally just won that same title the year before. I felt like something changed in football. And this, similarly, I felt like I was watching a different version of the sport. Obviously, Inter just never showed up. They were just shattered. They were a shell of themselves.
They were out on their feet, weren't they?
But the way PSG interchanged positions, like you had Hakimi playing like almost like a center forward position, and then you had Dembele dropping into right back, and you had the 3 front guys swapping, and the 3 midfielders could have been they didn't have fixed positions. Like one thing triggered another. They were moving in a way that, like, literally the phrase chasing shadows gets brought up a lot. This was like the ultimate chasing shadows. Like, to me, it was a really interesting match from a tactical perspective. And obviously there's the whole intrigue of Mbappe. Madrid win everything. Mbappe goes to Madrid, and then Madrid wins nothing aside from some door prizes that don't even matter. And then the team he leaves goes and wins everything.
Well, there's echoes of Michael Owen going to Real Madrid. I mean, I hope there's echoes for Trent here as well, because in I think, was it 2004, Michael Owen leaves Liverpool to go and win the Champions League at Real Madrid. The next year we win the Champions League, and he never wins it. So.
There you go.
Yeah, so quite enjoyed that. Poor Mbappe. I'm sure he'll get over it with his billions. But yeah, they are a strange team. Your technical point there on the fullbacks, I wouldn't be surprised to see a bit of that from Liverpool. We saw it this season, particularly when Conor Bradley was playing. That fullback that underlaps quite often as well as overlaps. This is relatively new tactical innovation, because Pep Guardiola was getting his fullbacks to come into midfield and like players more almost as playmakers or defensive midfielders. This underlapping is relatively new, but you could see the teams that did well in the Champions League, Denzel Dumfries and Hakimi, as you say, they basically did this absolutely amazingly. They were 2 of the biggest attacking threats on right through the Champions League at every stage, and it's from fullback. So I think you're right. It is a technical twist.
Barca have a Balde, the left back, who was missing from both of the Milan matches, the Inter matches, I should say. He plays that role. He plays it on the left, where he's like literally the left winger and allows either whoever that wide player is to hug the touchline or play centrally, and he becomes the left wing, and they overload in certain areas. Yeah, it's really interesting, and I don't know if they, there's sometimes teams just reach a peak and they become like way more than they are for a 5-month period, and they can never get back to that level. And I'm curious, because it's a young team, this PSG team. If they stay together, like that front 4 is incredibly talented. Every single one of them.
Oh, I love the Georgian guy, and I'm going to let you say his name.
Kvaraashvili, yeah. Kvaradona. That's what I always love that.
Maradona. That's the way out for everyone, isn't it? I wanted Liverpool to sign him. I love watching him play. He's like an old school sort of street footballer.
Totally.
I don't think we lose to them in the Champions League if they don't sign him in January.
Yeah.
We couldn't cope with him.
Yeah.
he gives them. But yeah, you are right. They are a great team. They were easily the best team we played this season. Easily, I think we were the only team that actually really pushed them close. But I mean, we were outplayed. We didn't deserve to go through.
Yeah.
So they are fantastic. Coach has done an amazing job, and you're right. They do rotate positions really well. I'm amazed. I'm also quite pleased that Dembele's come back, because he sort of failed at Barcelona, not quite to the same extent as Coutinho. They were both, if people don't remember, they were both signed.
For 100 million.
They were both incoming as Neymar went to PSG.
Yes.
100 million each. Coutinho totally wilted under the pressure. Dembele, I don't know. I think he probably did fail at Barcelona over the years, but it's great to see him come back, and he's been probably the best player in Europe this year. The top scorer in France.
So I agree. I've always loved him. He's also been the most frustrating player I've ever watched, because you see, like, his actual talent is probably the most in the world. Like, you cannot figure out. He doesn't even know which way he's going at any moment, but he can just glides past people. Like, I've never seen anyone just glide past professionals the way he does.
He's so
Problem
fast.
is, he gets to that final moment, and he used to be couldn't make the right decision. Then when he did make the right decision, I always joke with my son all the time. He's like, he Dembele, because he's leaning back and he skies it 10. Every single shot was the same. It was hit with pace, but like 10 yards over the bar, right? Something clicked for him this year, and I think it was Enrique playing him more centrally and not giving him a fixed position and just letting him be that roamer, and then everyone else has to adapt around that. That worked for him for sure. But yeah, it's great to see great players, in the right place to let them excel. So, except for when they play with Madrid.
Question, Eric. Quick question: how old's your son, and is he prepared for the Premier League?
He's 12, and unfortunately, probably fortunately, I don't think he has to worry about a professional career.
But is he ready? I'm assuming he's a Leeds fan. Is he ready to watch Leeds in the Premier League when it's not going to be winning all the time?
I probably take it more to heart than he does. He's more talking about the glory hunter issue. He's more of a Barca fan, but Leeds is his team in England. But yeah, so it's I'm preparing him for the war of attrition that lies ahead. So.
There's going to be, well, I'm sure he'll appreciate you telling him that there's got to be a lot of downs before you appreciate the ups.
That's true. Yeah, he's I'll mentally prepare him for that. He's at 12 is a funny emotional age, right? Like, everything, the highs are super high and the lows are super low at this point. So,
well, how badly could it go wrong? John Terry won Father of the Year. We can't be anywhere, can we?
Yeah, I want my mug. Mike, this has been awesome. So happy you could join me. We could talk for 10 more hours, but who wants to hear that? What's the best way for people to reach you?
You can reach me on LinkedIn. My personal email is mikeking121@gmail.com or mike@thefreightbuyersclub.com. If you just give me a shout. Check out the YouTube channel. Always willing to have a chat with anyone. Thanks very much for having me, Eric, as well. It's been my pleasure. Honestly, I could have carried on for another hour.
We'll do a part 2 and maybe a part 3 at some point for sure.
Yeah, great.
There's never a shortage of things to talk about. So
no, there's not. No.
All right. Well, cheers. Thanks, Mike.
Okay. Cheers, Eric. Thank you. Are we good? That was great, Eric. I enjoyed